Welcome to this meeting of Council. The meeting will be live streamed and recorded, and the voices and images of those participating in the meeting may be captured as part of this recording. Indigo Shire Council acknowledges the original custodians of these lands. The people of the rivers and the hills have walked these lands for thousands of years, as well as today, and we pay respect to the elders of the past and present. As councillors, we have all taken an oath to carry out our duties in the best interests of the people of Indigo Shire and to do this in a fair and impartial manner. We are all committed to exercising the council's powers and functions to the best of our skills and judgment. Item 3 is apologies and leaves of absence. We have apologies from Councillor Diane Shepherd, Councillor Emerick Tysell, and our CEO Trevor Arena. We have an acting CEO tonight, which is Sally Rice, and an acting Director of Community and Economic Development, Susanna Doyle. Item 4 is declarations of conflict of interest. Are there any declarations of conflict of interest with the agenda tonight? None? And item 5 is open forum. So we have 2 sets of questions that have been submitted for tonight's open forum. I have them here. I'll confirm that the people who have submitted the question are in the gallery, or if their proxy is in the gallery in one instance. So the first set of questions is from Peter Twigg, but Peter Twigg will be represented by Charles Mitchell, the proxy, tonight, and I can confirm that he's in the gallery. Question 1. The business case for the Rutherglen Wine Walk Cycle Trail, now known as Rutherglen Loops, detailed the risks associated with the project. A major risk that was identified was trail maintenance. The writers of the report stated, trail maintenance is a critical component of the experience, remaining high quality and attracting people to ride the destination. A moderate risk rating was given. Repairs to key section of the project in Wodonga, the Tommy McRae Trail, the River Loop Trail and Recreation Trail have just commenced some 20 months after the floodwaters have receded. Previous advice received from Council was that the repairs to these trails would be completed in the last quarter of 2023. The question, does Council acknowledge that maintenance is critical, and what will be put in place to ensure that damage from future flood events is repaired in a timely manner? The Director of Infrastructure Services, Ian Allen.
Thank you, through the Mayor. Yeah, look, certainly acknowledge that maintenance of the trail is critical, and all things being equal in a timely manner. I guess there's reference made in the question though to the recent works. So in the case of the recent repair works, which are follow-up from the flooding event in late 2022, where we're reliant on funding from the government, we need to go through the process to secure that first. So I guess what we've experienced over the last couple of years in getting that funding and the recent repairs isn't necessarily a reflection of what we would do normally to maintain that trail. I think it's just worth making the point also that Council's been aware from the outset that there's a likelihood that parts of this trail will go underwater from time to time. The trail has been constructed in loops, so when that happens, there are other parts of the network available, and the experience is still on offer broadly. So that is part of the design of that particular pedestrian structure.
Thank you. The second question. At the Council meeting held on the 25th of June 2024, a question was asked whether the applicant for the 24-hour service station truck stop on the corner of Federation Way and the Murray Valley Highway, Rutherglen, be required to provide an environmental impact assessment for both Lake Moodmere and Sunday Creek. Mr. Greg Pinkerton, the Director of Planning and Corporate Services, deftly handled the responsibility over to the Catchment Management Authority and the Department of Energy, Environment and Climate Action, stating that they are the appropriate authorities on these matters. Given that Council and the elected representatives of the ratepayers will ultimately decide the fate of the application, and also given Council's stated objective on protecting the environment, surely obtaining the relevant environmental impact statement would be essential to enable both Council officers and councillors to make an informed decision. The question, Will Council now undertake to ensure that environmental impact statements for both Lake Moodmere and Sunday Creek will be sought for both council officers, councillors and ratepayers upon request? The Director of Planning and Corporate Services, Greg Pinkerton.
Yeah, thank you. The planning system is set in legislation. Council doesn't make up the process, nor do I, and suggesting that we deftly handball our responsibility to others is pretty disrespectful of the team of professional planners that we have, who take great pride in following the rules, complying with the legislation that is set by the state government. So what do the rules dictate in this situation? The legislation says that the role of assessing catchment management impacts is the responsibility of the catchment management authority. That's the rules, that's the planning system that we use, and we will continue to follow that. Suggesting that council goes off script and starts making up our own planning processes or asking for reports out of school would put the decision making at risk, and this is really important. If council go off script, we run the risk of this being taken out of our hands and being decided at BCAT. The reason why we follow these rules, make sure that the right decisions are made by the right entities, is because we want the decision to stay here. If we do something else, we will lose a BCAT and we'll lose that decision-making power. So when it does come to council, we'll come to council at some point, and we will make sure that we've had the right referral authorities, we've got the right reports, and we present council with the correct information according to the legislation so that we can get the decision made here.
Third question. In September 2023, the CEO of Indigo Shire Council stated, "It is council expectation that from time to time part of the cycle path will be subject to inundation. It is our expectation that upon the receding of the water, that the track will in the main remain unharmed." The question: what knowledge and experience relative to flooding was the CEO able to draw on that enabled him to make such a definitive and reassuring proclamation? CEO Sally Rice.
Thanks, Mayor Price. So while I am here as the acting CEO, I'm happy to respond to the question. Council has a team of engineers and other professional subject matter experts who provide professional advice across the organisation on a daily basis. So as we do with all infrastructure projects, we assess the risks and specify the asset design accordingly.
That's the end of the first set of questions. The second set of questions is from Robin McLeish, and I can confirm that Robin's in the gallery. The 2022-23 annual report indicates that council staff turnover has increased from 15.6% to 26.3% in the last 4 years. This is both alarming and unacceptable, with major disruptions to council operations. There are significant costs involved with the loss of experienced workers, the recruitment and training of new staff, the costs associated with temporary personnel, plus concerns as to whether these losses are related to the working conditions within the council. Question 1. Is council aware of this situation? And if so, what do they intend to do to correct the situation? CEO Sally Rice.
Thanks again. So yes, council is very aware of the 22-23 statistics, and as for now, in the new financial year, we're pulling together our 23-24 financial year results for the purpose of preparing our next annual report, the local government performance reporting framework reports, and other reporting requirements we have. In relation to staff turnover, the figures have come down. The figures coming through from our people and culture team are showing very positive trends, indicating that turnover for the 23-24 period is at approximately 16%, excluding casuals and fixed-term contracts that are less than 6 months in duration. So this is well down from the last few years. This is a really pleasing result, and one that's come about due to targeted efforts in key areas across the organisation, focusing on workplace culture, initiatives identified through our recent employee alignment and engagement survey. This includes leadership development, workplace flexibility, investment in training and improving processes.
The second question from Robin McLeish. The recent Tourism North East presentation for the Beechworth Rail Precinct identified changes to the precinct that included the construction of a new toilet block adjacent to the rail shed and a children's playground. The rail shed project has failed to achieve any of the financial benefits claimed in the original grant application, and there is now no requirement for toilets. However, there is now an opportunity to construct a new toilet block located in the Beechworth Central Business District to cater for our growing number of tourists. Question 2. Can Council work with T&E to submit a new grant application that will provide a revised rail precinct project with no public toilet, and at the same time initiate an investigation into the construction of a new toilet block located in the Beechworth CBD that meets the requirements identified in the public toilet strategy? The Director of Infrastructure Services, Ian Allen.
Thank you, and while Robert, I'm seeing in the audience. So the current funding that Tourism North East is managing is for rail type enhancements. The Beechworth Railway Precinct toilets are not a specific requirement of that funding, but they are considered an important element in developing the precinct area and enhancing the usability and amenity of the precinct, and in future and any potential offerings of the good shed. So on that basis, we will not be working with TME to seek out a new application. The issue of a new toilet facility in the Beechworth CBD is a separate issue. The development of such a facility, other than at the Beechworth Railway Station, is not on offer and cannot be included as part of the rail enhancement funding package.
That brings us to the end of open forum. Those are the two sets of questions that we've received tonight. Item 6 is community and council achievements. Councillor Croucher, you have a community and council achievement you'd like to raise?
I certainly do. This is in regard to the King's Birthday Offers Honours of 2024. On behalf of my fellow councillors and citizens of Indigo, Shy, it's my pleasure to extend our warmest congratulations to Josephine Cornish on receiving a medal of the Order of Australia in this year's King's Birthday Honours. Her honour, in recognition of her service to the community of Beechworth, is richly deserved. With their volunteer work at the Salvation Army Beechworth Corps shop since 2012, Turbid Angels since 2015, Beechworth Lions Club 2014-18, and founder of Beechworth Boomerang Bags 2017 and 2018. And from a personal point of view, I too would personally like to congratulate Josie on her award. Unfortunately, Josephine was unable to attend in person tonight.
Thank you, Councillor Croucher. Yes, we did invite Josie along, and yes, she was unfortunately able to attend, but nonetheless really important that we mark such an achievement in the meeting tonight, so congratulations to Josie. Item 7 is condolences. Do any councillors wish to raise a condolence for the meeting? No? Item 8 is confirmation of minutes from previous meetings. The recommendation is that the following minutes be confirmed. 1. Minutes of the council meeting held on the 25th of June 2024 as published on council's website, and 2. Confidential minutes of the council meeting held on the 25th of June 2024 as provided to councillors under separate cover. Do I have somebody to move that motion? Moved Councillor Croucher, seconded Councillor Gold. Councillor Croucher, did you wish to speak? Councillor Gold would like to speak. Nobody else would like to speak. I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item 9 is business arising from previous minutes, and there are no reports. Item 10 is petitions, and there are none. We now move to item 11, planning and corporate services, and item 11.1 is the revenue and rating strategy 2024. The item is for decision. The recommendation is that Council 1 thanks the community for its engagement on the draft revenue and rating strategy. 2. Notes the changes made to the attached revenue and rating strategy 2024 as a result of the exhibition. A. Trust for nature land greater than 8 hectares to be permitted to receive the Rural 1 differential rate where the land is entirely given to TFM without any other activity, such as a dwelling. B. Total farm size assessment to be adjusted to align to the established single farming enterprise assessment that is currently in use for the purposes of the municipal charge. C. The transition arrangements be changed to initially recognised properties between 40 hectares and 50 hectares that have a primary production ABPCC code as primary producers, Rural 1. D. Discretion permitted in the assessment of primary producer status for a period of time to allow time for the owner to provide suitable evidence. E. Rural 2 and the primary producer status confirmed as applying to properties above 8 hectares as per the current Rural 2 designation. F. Updated wording in the Rural 2 description to reduce the emphasis on residential use. G. General wording updates and clarifications to improve clarity and readability. And 3. Adopts the attached revenue and rating strategy 2024. Can I have somebody to move that? Moved Councillor Gold, seconded Councillor Gaffney. Councillor Gold, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you. I think the revenue and rating strategy is a really complex issue, and I think many of us have learned a lot during this process. I'm very pleased that it has been such a long process. There's been opportunity for both our own insights and for the community to provide feedback. Clearly there are various models, all of which have some positive and negative implications. There's no one perfect solution. What I am pleased about is that Council's willingness to look at different models and to maintain a regular review of this strategy so that the continuous improvement opportunities are leveraged. And so I'm sure that the next Council for 2025 is going to enjoy this process as well. I think one of the things that I'm really pleased about is that the opportunity for the community to contribute led to improvements such as for the land that is protected through trust for nature and other covenants, to be recognised for the value that brings to our environment, our flora and fauna. Also opportunities for our farmland and primary producer status to be recognised with that option between the greater than 8, less than 40 hectare use, so that people that do have adjacent land or can prove production even on their smaller lands can still be advantaged by the lower rate structure. And I think a lot of that has come through feedback we've received from community, has really influenced that decision. I do also appreciate that there is a 12-month transition process. So as people who may be impacted or see opportunities to be advantaged by the new strategy have time to essentially get their ducks in a row, talk with council, make sure that they are well positioned to claim the appropriate rating strategy. And I think that 12-month transition is also a big contribution to our community and our understanding of this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gold. Councillor Gaffney, would you like to speak to the motion?
I'll reserve my right.
Thank you. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? Councillor Horn.
This matter has caused a great deal of discussion within our communities, and I'm very pleased that there's been a point at which we can arrange to have further talks and discussions and the process in the coming year. It's a bit too late to do so this year because the budget has already been passed. But it's really, really important that we all understand how the rating system works and that we have the opportunity to have the best advantages for everybody. Thank you.
Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? Councillor Croucher?
Yes, I believe that the rating strategy is based on the state government better practices and a significant consultation process. I know that our rating settings are not dissimilar to other rural councils and that these settings have served us well over time.
Thank you, Councillor Croucher. I just wanted to note that with the discussion about the different ways, the different systems that can be used to strike the rate, that the state government has recently done a review of the way that happens, always looking for a better model, as are the 79 councils in Victoria and elsewhere, and this is still the approach that should be taken and the one that we're taking. The process of community consultation on this revenue and rating strategy feels like it was some time ago now, because it was some time ago now. but it was well attended by community representatives and by councillors who wanted to see that the process was well done, that there was really good engagement from the community, and I think that that's absolutely what happened at those meetings, and it's really important to see that we get that level of engagement, and that it's a really well guided process that the staff take the community members through. So pleased to see it arrive almost at the 11th hour of this council term, and again it's a process that should be undertaken each council term, so the new council will be able to turn their mind to it at some stage over the next 4 years. Councillor Gaffney, you reserved your right. Would you like to speak for motion?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The current differential rate for Indigo Shire is that Rural 1 pays 75%, the Rural 2 pays 90%, the residential rate is 100%, commercial is 135%, and vacant residential 200%. There's been a lot of talk in the media about the dynamic differential rates model. To my knowledge, there are only 2 of 79 councils have adopted this, and the rest have much the same strategy as Indigo Shire Council. Could you confirm that, the Director of Planning and Corporate Affairs?
Yeah, thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor. I have heard the number of 3, but I only know of 2 particular councils, being Mansfield and Ararat. And sorry, it's a slightly different model, but essentially the same principle, yes.
Just before the meeting started, I was told about a person whose rates in Rural 1 went up, I think it was for 23-24, from 29,000 to 39,000. Could you explain how that occurred?
Yeah, again, through you, Madam Mayor, the rates is a fairly simple calculation. So if there was an increase of that amount, that would be a corresponding increase in the valuation of the land. Those 2 metrics move the same. And so if there was that much movement in the rates, there would be slightly more than that movement in the valuation of the land. And that's one of the core principles of the rating system used in Victoria, is that the land value, including house and improvements, is the main driving force for the amount of rates that is paid. So it will be about valuation.
Thank you, Director. Thank you, Madam.
Can I just ask, Director, if people have concerns about their rates notice and might want to challenge or question or have a discussion, what is the process for them to do that?
Yeah, really important. First of all, council complies with the rate cap. That's assessed by the Essential Services Commission, so we comply each year and we award it to each year. So the rate cap is there, but depending on individual property valuations, it can change. So if you get a rates notice and it looks unusual and it's gone up or something doesn't seem right to you, there is a process. It's on the back of the rates notice, but there's also information on council's website where you can put in an objection, and that goes to the Valuer General's office. The Valuer General's office is the one that does the valuations for council, and there's a process which they go through which verifies the value of the land. It might change, that objection process might change the valuation on record, or at least you would get back the reasons why that land is valued at that amount. But please, we strongly encourage people to check their rates notices and make sure that you're happy with it, and get in touch if you have any questions.
Just about that same topic, and last year I would say that most of my neighbours put in an appeal to have the valuation of their property reduced, and in turn make the money that they paid in rates reduced, and I think at least 8 out of 10 were successful. And the rating is not done by Indigo Shire. Indigo Shire does not get a contractor, it's done by the state government.
Thank you, Councillor Gaffney. Councillor Gold will now give you an opportunity to sum up if you'd like to. So I'll put it to the vote for the revenue and rating strategy for 2024. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item 11.2 is the financial hardship policy for 2024. The item is for decision. The recommendation is that Council adopts the attached financial hardship policy 2024. Could I have somebody to move that motion? Moved Councillor Croucher, seconded Councillor Gold. Councillor Croucher.
Yes, I was pleased to see the current policy was the result of much research and significant community consultation. With a working group who met regularly and a community survey, enough feedback was received by Council to ensure the hardship document is one that is clear and practical to apply.
Thank you, Councillor Croucher. Councillor Gold, would you like to speak a second?
Thank you. I think really to confirm with Councillor Croucher that the opportunity for community to have significant input into the development of this policy in the first place was really valuable. So it does reflect community expectations and in the same way reflects what councillors and council expect of our care for people that are having a tough time of it, and our opportunities to work with those people to enable them to still engage and remain in the Shire. I think it's an excellent outcome.
Thank you, Councillor Gold. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? Councillor Gaffney.
This is just an update and refresh of the current policy.
Thank you, Councillor Gaffney. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? Councillor Croucher, would you like to sum up as the mover? No? I'll put it to the vote for the financial hardship policy 2024. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item 11.3 is planning permit application PP 230174 for 11 Slaughterhouse Road, Rutherglen. The item is for decision. The recommendation is that Council issue and endorse the proposed development plan for 11 Slaughterhouse Road, Rutherglen, including the requested notation from North East Water. Do I have somebody to move that motion? Moved Councillor Gold. Seconded Councillor Gaffney. Councillor Gold.
Thank you. I think it's really, for me, it's really quite exciting that we have the opportunity to have some new housing stock on its way, and housing stock that is being developed close to townships and able to access the amenities and infrastructure within that region.
Thank you, Councillor Gold. Councillor Gaffney.
It must be considered that this is a development plan. It is not a plan of subdivision. 78 lots. There's certainly a shortage of available land in Rutherglen and in Indigo Shire for that matter. The subdivision will go 14 stages. The surrounding land is rural activity zone, particularly to the south, and this land is zoned as low density residential.
Would any of the council like to speak to the motion? Councillor Croucher.
Just to comment, I noticed reading the report that the plan has been referred to all the relevant authorities and also to a focus meeting for the residents of the surrounding properties to express any concerns they might have had. Now, as a result of this, I think this development plan is found to be suitable, and I'm certainly going to endorse this plan for recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Croucher. Councillor Vaughan, would you like to speak?
Yes, I actually have two questions I'd like to ask Director for planning and this for Pinkerton. In relation to the public open space contribution, can you please confirm what percentage of the unimpeded public open space is provided for in the proposed development plan?
Yeah, good question. That's a really important part of these developments. The development plan is not intended to have specific dimensions. This is about the overall design. The benchmark is always the 5% that is in legislation, and the application documents do acknowledge that 5%. Where that will be really determined is the next stage would be a plan of subdivision. And the plan of subdivision needs to be generally in accordance with the development plan. And when council receives that plan of subdivision, we'll be looking for at least that 5%. Quite often it's a bit more, but at least that 5% is public open space. And the plans actually identify pretty much where it will be and the sort of open space that they're proposing.
Thank you. My other question is it possible for you to confirm that the 5% will be provided as a cash contribution as a condition of the planning permit?
Look, it's hard to look ahead to the planning, the subdivision application. It's not a council to prepare, so we'll receive a planning application in the future. What I can say is that the development plan actually has land, not a cash component. The development plan has identified that 5% as a park, and on in the application it shows that on page 13. It's throughout all of the plans. It shows that park, and that's in the eastern side of the block. There's a drainage basin which is not public open space, and then just below that is a public park. And it's been located there because the block next door is potentially going to be subdivided at some point in the future, and the idea is that these parks for this subdivision and maybe the one next door, if that gets developed, could join to be a larger space for the community out there. So that's all detailed in the development plan, which is attached to the agenda.
I'd also like to make some comments. This often presents a really exciting chance to develop a standout neighbourhood in a real rural activity zone within a tourism-oriented historic township whose character has a unique and well-defined vibe that must be retained. In order to achieve a future-focused, quality outcome that equally benefits both established landholders and newcomers to the area, a great deal of consideration must be given to sensitively bridging the transition from farmland to residential. The planting of native and indigenous tree species, plus the critical consideration of flood mitigation and other livability factors, such as traffic flow and access to shops, schools and other services, will be what local and community is looking for. Big picture consideration and the incorporation of environmentally sustainable principles, utilising the developer's required environmental contribution, which I presume is a percentage of that of 5%, could be specifically, or would be likely, specifically and solely used for creating more community features throughout the development as essential to delivering a maximum return on investment for the community and the hundreds of people who will reside there in the future.
Could I ask a question, Mayor? Just on that before. Is this land zoned farming? As far as I read, it's low density residential. Tell me what thing, Councillor, you referred to it as farming land, and it's not.
Councillor Ward, you don't have the microphone on.
It's rural activity zone.
It's low density residential zone. That's what you referred to it as.
No, I can say that.
Thank you. I'll return to Councillor Gold as the mover. Would you like to sum up?
Thank you. I think it's always really good to get a little bit of background about the land, previous use, and some implications for the use of this land and the stages it goes through. I think everyone, particularly the community, learns a little bit each time we have a meeting and we quiz one of the directors. So apologies to the directors for all the questions, but I think it's really great that we have an opportunity to do that for everyone's benefit. I come back, I think, to my original point, and has been replicated by the other councillors here, that we really do need new housing stock. It is great that we are taking a first step towards more within a close to Relic Land. We know it is a high demand, and I, again, support this sort of development where we're using intentional land which is designed for rural or residential living to be put to that purpose.
Thank you, Councillor Gold. So I'll put it to the vote for 11 Slaughterhouse Road, Rutherglen, to issue and endorse the proposed development plan. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item 11.4 is planning permit application PP 230002 for 41 to 47 Ford Street, Waganya. The item is for decision. The recommendation is that council issue a notice of decision to grant a planning permit at 41 to 47 Ford Street, Waganya for stage subdivision of land in the general residential zone and bushfire management overlay, removal of an easement in accordance with clause 52.02 of the Indigo Planning Scheme, subject to the following conditions. I'm not going to read all of the conditions. I'll read the headings for each of the conditions. There's endorsed plans for subdivision, stage subdivision, land vested in council, open space contribution easements, engineering conditions, detailed construction plans, page 1, 2, 3, onto page 4, detailed landscape plan onto page 5, erosion and sediment control plan, construction management plan, onto page 6 or 7, build documents required, subdivision fees, AusNet conditions, mandatory conditions for clause 44.06-5, lost count for the page number, CFA conditions, bushfire management plan required, and additional matters set out in the section 173 agreement. As you can get a feel, there are a multitude of different conditions that are required for this planning permit application, and all listed in the recommendation so that we can see them right up front rather than detailed in an appendix. So I will ask, would somebody like to move this recommendation? Moved Councillor Guthrie, seconded Councillor Gold. Councillor Guthrie.
And this would be the longest conditions. It's 11 pages. It took me half an hour to read them. However, it's to subdivide the land, which is 1.33 hectares, into 15 residential blocks, which includes a drainage reserve, also referred to as a pond. Hopefully this will assist in providing residential houses in Indigo Shire. As I said, there's not much you can say about it that's not in those 11 pages.
Thank you, Councillor Guthrie. Councillor Gold, would you like to speak a second?
Thank you. Yes, I think having those long conditions was interesting, and I note it would normally be within an appendix as opposed to a full recommendation, so I do want to thank the council officers for that challenge. It was, I think, again, really great to see land that is designed ultimately for residential living to be coming forward for development so that we can increase the housing stock, and again, seeing that happen close to existing residential properties and access infrastructure and development within the area is a fantastic outcome.
Thank you, Councillor Gold. Would any other councillor like to speak the motion? Councillor Croucher.
Yeah, just like to echo what Councillor Gold said, particularly in the conclusion of the report, it's just one sentence or and it sort of struck out to me that the appropriate use of urban areas for housing helps to take pressure on all rural areas, strengthens commutes, supports local business and provides for a range of housing options, and I feel that's what this one is all about.
Thank you, Councillor Croucher. Councillor Horn.
This development is very well placed in the township of Urbania and provides lots of opportunities for it to be really part of the life of Urbania, being really easy reach of the hub, water, and most of things like that. So it's very pleasant to see this development.
Thank you, Councillor Ward. I just think important to note that with each of the items, each of the planning considerations on the agenda tonight, the council has had the opportunity to go out and have a site visit so that we can see exactly where the location is rather than just read it straight from the agenda. So this is one of those that was attended by a number of councillors so that we can consider it tonight. Is nobody else to speak, which there isn't? I'll go back to Councillor Gaffney. Would you like to sum up? No? If not, I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item 11.5 is planning permit application PB 230125 for 345 Reeds Way, Burridge. The item is for decision. The recommendation is that council issue a notice of decision for the refusal of planning permit application 23.
I'd like to move that motion on this matter.
Councillor Gaffney, you'd like to move a deferral motion. Can you tell us what your motion is?
I was going to ask for an alternate motion, and in fact I was given one, but part of that is there's been no reference to a report from the CFA, which hasn't been received by council. So I'd like to defer this to the next meeting of council, pending the arrival of that report from the CFA.
So can I confirm your deferral motion is to defer this item until the August council meeting, pending a response from the CFA?
Correct, Madam.
So that is a deferral motion moved now by Councillor Gaffney. Can I have somebody to second that motion? Councillor Horn, you'd like to second? As it's a procedural motion, there is no speaking to it. So I will now that it has a mover and a seconder, I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour that this item be deferred? Carried unanimously. Item 11.6 is planning permit application PP 230152, 18 Duncan's Lane, Beechworth. The item is for decision. The recommendation is that council refuse to grant a permit for buildings and works to construct a dwelling and a rural store in a farming zone on the following grounds.
I'd like to move a deferment motion amendment.
Councillor Gaffney, what's your deferral motion?
I did ask for an alternate motion to this report. Unfortunately, Beaker, although this farmland has been with the family for over 100 years, Beaker are unable to, at this time, to give access to that block to
So, Councillor Gaffney, I will just ask you to get to the deferral motion. There's to be no debate when it's a deferral motion, it's just procedural.
a deferral motion because of a lack of access from Beaker.
So, can I confirm that you'd like a deferral motion for the item to return to the August council meeting, pending advice on access?
Correct, Madam Mayor.
So that is a deferral motion moved by Councillor Gaffney. Do I have a seconder for that motion? Seconded by Councillor Horn. There's no debate as it is a procedural motion to defer. So I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Carried unanimously.
Excuse me, Madam Mayor. Sorry to interrupt. We've been plagued with a little bit of an internet problem tonight. We've been recording the entire time, but the internet has been a bit intermittent. I've just been advised that it's now back up and running. We're going to restart recording and we'll just interrupt us with a little announcement as it does that. So I thought I'd just let you know what that's about.
Would you like us to wait or continue?
Recording in progress.
There it is. Thank you, Director Peterson. Item 11.7, planning permit application PB 220073, Lilyfoot, Norrong Road, Lilyfoot. The item is for decision. The recommendation is that council issues a notice of decision to refuse planning permit PP 0073 for the re-subdivision of land into 3 lots at Lilyfoot, Norrell Road, Lilyfoot, on the following grounds. 1. The proposal is not consistent with the municipal planning strategy and planning policy framework, particularly clauses A, clause 02.03-1 settlement, B, clause 02.03-4 natural resource management, C, clause 02-03-6 housing, D, clause 14.01-1S protection of agricultural land, and E, clause 14.01-1L-02 subdivision in rural areas. 2. The proposal is not consistent with the purpose and decision guidelines of the farming zone. And 3. The proposal is not consistent with the decision guidelines at clause 65.01 and 65.02. Can I have somebody to move that motion? Moved Councillor Croucher. Seconded Councillor Gold. Councillor Croucher, would you like to speak?
Yes, so the application discusses issues about agriculture and the creation of dwellings in a farming zone. The proposal is not well defined with no detail on how the proposed enterprise will operate. It is not clear how the proposed subdivision will improve and enhance agricultural activity. Therefore, this application does not really meet the planning scheme requirement that may be met.
Thank you, Councillor Croucher. Councillor Gold, would you like to speak a second?
Thank you. I think similarly, it's really difficult to preserve farming land if we constantly allow subdivision, which provide the right of building a dwelling on farmland, where we say on principle and in our planning scheme that we want farmland to be predominantly used for farming, and that we want farming land to remain of a value where new farmers can come into the sector and can afford to purchase land within the shire.
Thank you, Councillor Gold. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? Councillor Croucher, would you like to sum up? I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour to refuse this planning permit? Carried unanimously. Item 11.8 is planning permit application PP 23-0215 for 1780 Indigo Creek Road, Indigo Valley. I think we have an update from the Director of Planning and Corporate Services, Greg Wheaton, about this item tonight.
Yeah, thank you. So earlier today we received notice that this will be amended. So we would like to withdraw this from tonight's agenda, and we will review the amendments and take it there.
So to confirm, we won't consider this item on tonight's agenda, it will be withdrawn.
Withdrawn by staff, yes.
Thank you, Dr. Whittington. I'll now go to item 11.9, planning permit application PP 230225, Anderson Road, Rutherford. The item is for decision. The recommendation is that a notice of decision to approve planning permit application PP 230225 for use of land as a cemetery at Anderson Road, Rutherford be issued subject to the following conditions. There are a page and a half of conditions. I'll read the headings of those. Plans to be submitted, approved use, hours of operation, maximum number of funerals, engineering conditions, and an expiry date. Could I have somebody to move that motion? Moved Councillor Horn, seconded Councillor Croucher. Councillor Horn.
Yes, we've actually run out of room, and we're making these arrangements for the council's actually the applicant in this case, making arrangements for the future development of the area, and it's much needed, and yeah, it should be a great addition.
Thank you, Councillor Horn. Councillor Crouch, would you like to speak a second?
Well, as a part of life, cemeteries will always need to acquire new land for the obvious needs of human society, and the Carlisle Cemetery is no exception. Subject to the conditions that were read out before in the recommendation, I believe this proposal of extension of Carlisle Cemetery is consistent with the relevant provisions of the planning policy program as well as the objectives of the farming land.
Thank you, Councillor Crouch. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? Councillor Hall, would you like to sum up? No, I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item 11.10 is planning permit PP 220326 Kibble Lane Beechwood. The item is for decision. The recommendation is that council issues a notice of decision to refuse planning permit application PP 220326 for a shed on Crown Allotment 9, Section B, Parish of Wiruji, on the following grounds. 1. The application has failed to respond to repeated requests for further information required to assess impacts of the proposed development in order to ensure that the building was located on freehold land rather than Crown land. And 2. Council cannot be satisfied that the proposed shed is not on Crown land, and as the relevant public land manager has not consented to construction of a shed on their land, the granting of a planning permit would be futile. Could I ask somebody to move that motion? Move Councillor Gaffney, seconded Councillor Gold. Councillor Gaffney.
The recommendation really speaks for itself, and this comes up from time to time, that the application has failed to respond to repeated requests for further information required to assess impacts of the proposed development in order to ensure that the building was located in freehold land rather than Crown land. And 2, council cannot be satisfied that the proposed shed is not on Crown land and as the relevant public land manager has not been consulted to construction of a shed on their land, the grant of planning permit would be futile.
Thank you, Councillor Gaffney. Councillor Gold, would you like to speak to seconder? Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? Councillor Gaffney, do you wish to sum up? I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item 11.11, planning permit application PP 230007 for 559 Flat Rock Road, Beechwood. The item is for decision. The recommendation is that council decides to grant a notice of decision to grant a permit land at 559 Flat Rock Road, Beechwood for the use and development of land for group accommodation subject to the following conditions. There are 1, 2, 3 pages of conditions. I will read out the headings. Endorsed plans condition, external materials and colours condition, maximum number of guests condition, land use and amenity conditions, mandatory bushfire management overlay conditions, Indigo Shire Council engineering conditions, Indigo Shire Council environmental health conditions, Country Fire Authority conditions, permit expiry conditions, and permit notice. Could I have somebody to move that motion? Moved Councillor Gold, seconded Councillor Crouch. Councillor Gold.
Thank you. I think this is again another really interesting, somewhat dilemma where we've got farming land, which in this instance can't be used effectively as a primary production site, beautiful land as it is, and can't be merged or added value, no value can be added to the land for farming purposes with the neighbouring sites. I think the opportunity for group accommodation on this site for economic benefit, both for the owners but also for the towns and the regions, is an excellent solution.
Thank you, Councillor Gold. Councillor Crouch, would you like to speak as a second?
Yes, although it's in a farming zone, the area is in a very low productive value. To locate rural accommodation close to the places of high tourism value seems common sense to me and does not hamper the efficacy of agricultural production nor unnecessary amenity impacts on existing rural living. The proposed buildings have been to best avoid bushfire action, vegetation impacts and impacts on agriculture and other dwellings. Therefore, I agree that a permit should be granted.
Thank you, Councillor Crouch. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? Councillor Gaffney.
Tourist accommodation in Beechwood and other towns within Indigo Shire is quite often full, particularly at certain times of the year like Easter, Golden Horseshoes, Heritage, I'm just trying to think of the name, festival and other tourist accommodation, and this, I would say, fits in very well.
Thank you, Councillor Gaffney. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? If not, I'll go back to the mover. Councillor Gold, would you like to come up? I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item 11.12 is planning permit application PT 220231 for 20 Lake Road, Norwalk. The item is for decision. The recommendation is that a notice of decision to grant a planning permit for development and works being shed extensions to new farm sheds and 2 shipping containers for mushroom production purposes situated on land at number 20 Lake Road, Norwalk will be issued subject to the following conditions. Councillor Gaffney?
I'd like to move an alternate motion, Madam Mayor.
Okay. We'll have your alternate motion, Councillor Gaffney.
The motion is that council issues a notice of decision to refuse planning permit application PP 230232 for development works being shed extensions, a new farm shed and 2 shipping containers for mushroom production purposes situated on land number 20 Lake Road, Norwalk on the following grounds. There's several grounds, Madam Mayor, that I'll speak to.
And just to confirm, councillors, we've all been given a copy of this alternate motion. So I just want to confirm that each councillor has received it. It's also up on the screen for all of us to view at this time. If everyone has confirmed that they've got a copy of that, then I'll ask. So you've now moved that motion, Councillor Gaffney. I'll ask for a seconder for that motion. Second that motion. Councillor Gaffney, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This property is right on the banks of Lake Moodamere. The property is partly mapped as being of Aboriginal cultural heritage sensitivity. However, the planning department saw fit not to approach any Aboriginals concerning this land. I've certainly spoken to the Bangarang, and they see Lake Moodamere as of significance of heritage sensibility, agricultural heritage sensitivity, that they haven't been consulted. They were surprised that it was put on the agenda without them. It goes back to Tommy McRae, who camped on the banks of Lake Moodamere. As I read this report, the sort of Murray-Darling Basin Authority haven't been consulted. There's a number of objections to it for a variety of reasons. It's on a very small block of 1.7 hectares. To put 2 big shipping containers to grow mushrooms, to have 100 chickens. This is not the first application to use this land, and that was, it was to be a chicken farm of a lot more than 100 chickens. That was refused. They wanted to have a shed on it. They want to have an office on it. They want to have an amenity block on it. The soil would have to be disturbed because of a septic tank. And as I said, it's very close proximity. Had site visits there when they wanted to be a chicken farm, and we went there and it was containing 17 chickens. I think there might have been a very small shed for them, but nothing else. I just think that if the Aboriginals had been considered as to it might need a cultural heritage master plan, but it certainly needs to have discussions with the Aboriginals.
Can I just ask a question before I go to the mover about exactly that? The planning process is fairly prescriptive about exactly when we have to engage with local Indigenous groups. Can I just check that, was there any trigger within this planning permit that meant that we had to engage with those groups? Because I would hate to think that we have not taken up that responsibility in that process, because that's exactly what it's there for, and we should at every stage where we're mandated to, and beyond that, engage with our local Indigenous groups if required. Can I ask that of the you, Director of Planning and Corporate Services, Greg Newton.
Yeah, thank you. So it was a definite question we looked at as part of the planning process, and there isn't a trigger for a cultural heritage management plan, and where something isn't required, it would be inappropriate for council to request something that isn't required through the planning rules.
Thank you, Director. Councillor Horn, would you like to speak as seconder?
I'd just like to concur with Councillor Gaffney's comments.
Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? Councillor Crouch, Councillor Gold?
Thank you. I think this is a really challenging decision. This is an appropriate farm use in land that is zoned for farming. And we keep saying that it's really important that farmland be used for farming purposes. And in doing so, a couple of shipping containers is not such an issue. Even a septic system would not be such an issue if it were not in such proximity to the lake. And that the proximity to the lake, the visual amenity, heritage, any potential indigenous sensitivities to the land, it's a really challenging question for what is a very small block of land, where an owner has owned the land and has attempted to run various farming operations and is constantly thwarted in doing so. I think it raises much bigger issues around the whole amenity of Lake Windermere and the appropriate zoning and the use of land in that zone, which is not going to be remedied tonight. But I think there is questions for council to actually address in the near future for sites like this that have lots of sensitivities but are effectively farm zoned.
Thank you, Councillor Gold. Councillor Crouch, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yeah, I just believe that this application actually proposes farming in a farming zone. And also within the recommendations, there's enough conditions, as for example, sediment control, water management upgrade, relocation of existing effluent disposal system, the detailed requirements involving access and encroachment, and all these water as well, to ensure that this application should be approved. There were 3 objections. They have been covered and given reasons as to why it's such. And I'd like to foreshadow that if this motion is lost, that we will go back to the original recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Croucher. So you are foreshadowing that if this motion is lost, we return to the recommendation that is listed in the agenda. So at this stage, we're still dealing with the alternate motion, which is to refuse the planning permit application. I'll now go back to the mover, Councillor Gaffney. Would you like to sum up?
Yes, I've got a few questions from Councillor Croucher. I'm sure he's read this very, very well, and I'm sure he's read the planning policy framework. Do you think that that they've been taken into account?
Well, I can only see what I've read, and I think the conditions spell out exactly what's going on with that particular.
I've just got concerns about the planning policy framework and the public policy considerations have been taken into account in this assessment. So number 3 is protection of agricultural land. How can putting shipping containers on agricultural land be sustainable after being protection of agricultural land?
So is that a question for the Director?
No, for Councillor Croucher.
I think it would be a question for our director.
Do you know which director the question?
Well, I can't see anything wrong with you protecting agricultural land just with a container on a piece of land, not doing any damage to that tiny piece of land just with a container. That's what I would suggest.
Is the question, Councillor Gaffney, about whether that's a permissible use in the farming zone?
No, but it's ask the director if Councillor Crouch would refer to him to answer that one. So I'm just wondering whether putting shipping containers, I'm not sure what containers you would put the chickens in, 100 chickens, but if that's sustainable agricultural land use.
Can I ask,
Really?
is the question to the Director of Planning and Corporate Services?
Well, I think that Councillor Crouch
Yeah.
wants it to go that way, so
Director
I'll
Pinkerton?
hold a bit.
I was just going to say yes. Look, the fact that it's here with a recommendation for approval is demonstration that we've been through those matters, we've lined up the application with the planning scheme requirements, and that it does meet those requirements. It talks about the shed, and also talks about the shipping containers. These are the sorts of things that are ancillary to a farming area. Remembering, of course, that farming areas are like an industrial area. They're about farming, and they're about producing food for the communities. And so you will have things like tractors and shipping containers and sheds and things like that happening in a farming area. So it's a yes.
Thank you, Director.
Yeah. I've got some other questions, and all of this on 1.7 hectares. So you've taken into account the sustainability agricultural land use. In the report, is there any place for the chickens to roost? Or for the chickens to lay eggs if they were going to? And how big is the shed? There's no mention of, it just says a proposed shed and shipping containers. I'll let that go because it's not in the report. Do you know how big the shed is?
No, not off the top of my head, no.
No. And in that same planning policy framework, 15.0325, you've taken into account Aboriginal cultural heritage. I don't believe that's true. But have you?
Yes, there was no permit trigger for a cultural heritage management plan. And it's considered, the application has been assessed, and it's considered to be a low impact development. It's not like the land is being ripped up or dug into. So for the low impact uses, there's no need for a cultural heritage management plan.
I'm not saying that there's a need for it, but I'm just saying that there's a moral obligation for it. Did you bring it to the Reconciliation Action Committee to find out whether, because it's part of the planning policy framework, but I don't think you've taken it into account. Anyway, I won't go on about it.
Okay, so Councillor Yagni, you've now summed up. I'll put it to the vote. I'll just remind councillors that this is an alternate motion. It now is the motion, and it would be a motion to refuse the planning permit for the development of works on 20 Lake Road, Norham. I'll put it to the vote again. It's a refusal. All those in favour? And those against? The item is carried. I'll just confirm those in favour is Councillor Horn, Councillor Gaffney and Price. Those against, Councillor Croucher and Councillor Gold. We'll now move on to item 12, Community and Economic Development. Item 12.1 is the 2024-2025 swimming pools contract. The item is for decision. And the recommendation is that Council enters into a one-year contract extension with Belgravia Leisure Proprietary Limited with a contract price of $715,276 excluding GST to continue to manage Council's 5 outdoor swimming pools, makes a budget adjustment in the mid-year review to accommodate the associated budget variation, and communicate with the state and federal governments in negotiators, increasing concern about the ongoing financial viability of providing public pool facilities and seek their assistance towards a solution. Can I have somebody to move that motion? Moved Councillor Crouch, seconded Councillor Gold. Councillor Crouch.
Council is mindful of the importance of our 5 swimming pools to the people of our shire. I know in Tengambalanga it is very well used, but it is also mindful of the rising and ongoing cost to run such pools. With this in mind, I would like the recommendation of extending the contract with Belgravia to be received. We also agree with the idea of advocating to state and federal governments the concerns, especially with the financial viability of providing this source of recreation to our communities.
Thank you, Councillor Crouch. Councillor Gold, would you like to speak a second?
Yeah, I think I concur. It's having 5 rules in one shire is a lot. We have a very wide geographic coverage. We have very diverse population centres. 5 rules would seem a luxury, but it's, I think I respect for many in the community to say it's frustrating to have a pool and it's closed. But I also understand the budget constraints and the cost of operating the pools, let alone having them open for use. So I think having council advocate on behalf of our community with governments, state and federal, to try and gain some support so that we may utilise our pools more efficiently and not have an incredible financial impost on our ratepayers, of which I am one, in the future is a very strong next step.
Thank you, Councillor Gold. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? I'd like to speak particularly to the third item within that recommendation about communicating with the state and federal government about our concern. We really understand that pools are a much loved part of townships within Indigo Shire, as they are in a number of other towns. And with 5 pools, it's a lot to maintain and a really expensive thing to continue to fund for our communities. Nonetheless, we see them as a really important asset and part of the fabric of our towns. The Royal Life Saving Institute has done a report in recent years to talk about the number of pools that will be reaching their end of life, and they were all built, mostly they were built at similar times in Australia, and so we have lots of ageing infrastructure in terms of our pools that are all coming to the end of life, and that's the case for us at Indigo Shire as well. The conversation that the CEO and I have had and previous mayors have continued to have with state and federal governments is about the need for a dedicated pools fund for us to apply for grants, because for each of our pools that would need replacing, we are looking for at a minimum $10 million, and we have that 5 times over, so we need at least at a minimum $50 million to replace each of the pools. Sometimes our residents come in and ask us for heated pools, and they ask us to seriously consider whether that is an option, and it's not anything that we could remotely consider. As I said, there's currently no appropriate fund that we can apply to, and so it would mean that council would be the biggest funder of any of that infrastructure. So I feel like for quite some time we have been pleading to state and federal governments to say, how will we continue to keep these assets within our towns? Everyone knows just how hard it is to close down a pool. No one tries to. It's not something that we would try to do either, but we're going to have a very serious conversation about the viability of our pools into the future. So as I say, I'm really pleased to see that third item there. The CEO and I will continue to advocate on behalf of the council for an appropriate fund, and to also continue to make our case to the state and federal governments about the increasing costs of running 5 pools for a small rural shire. I'll now go back to Councillor Crouch. Would you like to sum up?
I think I've said it. You continue on.
Thank you, Councillor Crouch. I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item 12.2 is the draft Stanley Community Resilience Plan. The item is for decision. The recommendation is that Council 1 endorses the draft Stanley Community Resilience Plan for public exhibition for a period of 30 days from the 31st of July to the 29th of August 2024, and 2 notes that the Stanley Community Resilience Plan will be brought back to Council for final approval at a future meeting. Can I have somebody to move that motion? Moved Councillor Gold, seconded Councillor Croucher. Councillor Gold.
Thank you. Look, I think it's wonderful with the amount of community consultation in a small community, but nonetheless a very important one, in developing their community resilience plan in a very localised, place-based process, which allowed different perspectives, different members of the community to voice their needs and ask their questions. I think it's wonderful that we've now got a plan brought together to take back to the not only standing community but the wider communities across the Indigo Shire for comment and feedback.
Thank you, Councillor Gold. Councillor Crown. Should we work speak?
Yeah, this plan has had extensive community consultation, especially with the people of Stanley, and now needs council's endorsement to go on to public exhibition for 30 days. From then on, the plan will be brought back to council for approval. I think this is something that's really very, very important, and good luck to the Stanley people for this plan.
Thank you, Councillor Crouch. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? No? Councillor Gold, would you like to sum up? I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item 12.3 is the draft Barnwell Platinum Surrounds Community Resilience Plan. The item is for decision. The recommendation is that Council 1 endorses the draft Barnwell and Surrounds Community Resilience Plan for public exhibition for a period of 30 days from the 31st of July to the 29th of August 2024, and 2 notes that the Barnwell and Surrounds Community Resilience Plan will be brought back to Council for final approval at their future meeting. Can I ask someone to move that, please? Moved Councillor Gold, seconded Councillor Crouch. Councillor Gold.
I think similarly, having a process which enabled the Barnwell and Surrounds community in the first instance to be able to put forward their ideas, ask their questions, contribute to the development of this plan is a really strong process where their ideas have now been captured, and here is an opportunity again for the Barnwell community to feedback on a not quite final product, but see their ideas brought to life, and again for people across the Shire to be able to look at this plan and provide their input is excellent.
Thank you, Councillor Gold. Councillor Crouch, would you like to speak to second?
Very, very similar to the Stanley plan. The plan's not similar to the Stanley plan because Barnwell had their own plan, but it had extensive consultation. And the idea of going through those processes and then going into the wider Shire, I think is a very important thing. And again, good luck to the Barnwell plan.
Thank you, Councillor Crouch. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? I'll just say that there was some really interesting community engagement offerings that were offered up to 2 of these communities, and I know particularly there was quite a bit of feedback about 2 of the events that were held in each of the towns to really celebrate giving that feedback and to celebrate these plans, and I think it was a very useful exercise that really created a lot of conversation as well as providing a great event to each of these small communities. Each of our towns wants a place plan, and they can be really expensive exercises, and so I'm really pleased to see that we can make sure that we find a really good fit for some of our smaller communities to achieve similar outcomes, and I think that the feedback that we've received about the process and the plans that have been developed that we're considering tonight reflect exactly that. With both of these plans, as we said, they're on a period of exhibition for 30 days, and we welcome that feedback to say, is this what you intended for it to look like? Does this fit your community? And please give us that feedback before final approval. I'll go back to you, Councillor Gold. Would you like to sum up? No? I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item 6 is infrastructure services, and item 13.1 is contract number 23/6524-05 for the October 2022 flood rehabilitation works for the Western area. The item is for decision. The recommendation is that Council 1, conditional on the approval of funding from the Department of Justice and Community Safety for these works, awards contract number 23/6524-05 for flood rehabilitation works in the west of the Shire to Longford Civil for the lump sum of $988,667 excluding GST. 2, authorises the CEO to sign the contract and fix the council's common seal. And 3, authorises the CEO the financial delegation to approve contract variations up to a total of 10% of the signed contract value. Can I have somebody to move that motion? Moved Councillor Guthrie, seconded Councillor Horn. Councillor Guthrie.
There's a lot of people who say that in Go Shire Council, when it gets its money, it builds sporting things and or bike tracks, and it should be doing potholes. And here's the perfect example of $988,667,000 for the west of the Shire for flood remediation works. Very, very important. The west got hit hard with floods and other things. Myself and a couple of other councils went over there and spoke to a number of the residents. To have your house inundated is just heartbreaking, and they just hope that it wouldn't happen again. So it's a lot of money, and that's money well spent.
Thank you, Councillor Guthrie. Councillor Horn, would you like to speak as seconder?
Having been flooded twice myself and seeing the effects on my community, every time it rains, we're worrying and looking at how much it's actually going to fall. So yes, this work is long overdue, and it's a great deal of money, and it's very well needed and be appreciated, and hopefully will allay some of the problems that we've experienced. And it's always an issue to turn things to the state they were in before the event, rather than what's called betterment, where you actually improve the situation and install more significant fixes. That would give us a little bit more confidence, but in the overall plan of things, I guess we have to accommodate what's available to us, and very appreciative of that fact. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Horn. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? Councillor Gold.
I think just quickly, I concur that we know there's been a lot of flood damage across our region. It is fantastic that we're now in a position to at least move forward with the contract, subject to the funds being received to cover this work. So, whereas we believe that is all forthcoming and feel confident, until it's in the bank, we need to just, I guess, hedge our bets in that regard. But I think it is excellent to move forward, and I'm sure there'll be many people very pleased to see this work underway. And I think it's also excellent the approach to separate the two bodies of flood rehab work, so that the work can continue in a speedy way and not have just one contractor progressing in a slow pace. So I think that's excellent.
Can I ask a question to the Director of Infrastructure Services? I think the question from the community, one of the questions is that these are works from October 2022, and still it's conditional on approval of funding. What is the process? Why is it July 2024 to approve works for October 2022?
Thank you. I don't know how well I can describe this. Look, it's I suppose a long and complex process we're working through with the state government. Without getting too complex about it, there's the works that are done in the immediate time of emergency, the immediate weeks that follow. So less process around that. We're able to get funding back for those emergency works. The recovery works, or whatever the title is, sort of this next category that we can take a little bit longer. There's certainly expectations by government of an inordinate amount of process just to go through, be able to demonstrate the damage, hopefully have good enough records to demonstrate the condition of the assets, all the roads and drains, etc. were in prior to the flooding. So going back and relying on different inspection records, sometimes you have photographic data, sometimes you don't. It's just a long drawn out process, and I suppose even now we're talking to the government recently around putting this recommendation in front of council. They've got a backlog because there's a number of other councils at the same point as what we are from the same events in 2022. So look, it's not ideal. I think we've seen over the last number of years a number of emergency events across the country. We've seen the guidelines sort of tighten, and with that comes a bit more process and probably a bit of a learning from the government. So we'll be on that learning path too, and hopefully when the next event comes, we'll try and be in as good a position as we can to take advantage of those little works. But look, I get a strong sense that we're in a really similar place to a number of other councils. There's a backlog. We are still waiting at this point, hence the conditional wording in the recommendation to you that we've still got to get the funding endorsed through this sort of certified estimate. So government's required us to actually go out to tender, so we've actually got real prices, not estimates on the cost of this work, and they've got their own process behind the scenes that will take a little bit of time to still work through before they give us the green light to proceed.
Thank you, Director. I just concur with some of what you've said, that whenever there's a meeting of mayors and CEOs, it doesn't have to be locally, right across Australia, there's frustration with the process that we have to undertake to arrive at this point where we can present a contract back to council. It's something that was discussed with Brendan Moon, who's the head of National Emergency Management Australia, at the recent Australian Local Government Conference. There was a question and answer session, and all of the frustration came from just about every state across Australia. So I'm pleased to see that we can arrive at something that, although it says conditional, that might be just what works best for us for this particular instance, and continue to improve that process and give feedback to state and federal governments to say, here's how we can make that process better. Last year when we went to the Rural Councils Victoria Conference, it was hosted by Echuca, and their challenge was that they had to continue to present evidence that damage that had been done to their port was specific to a particular time, even though it had been inundated time after time after time. They had a real challenge on their hands to say, but that bit there, that bit of erosion, that was definitely specific to a particular period of time. So hopefully the government is starting to hear us, that it is too onerous in some instances. We're not trying to get more than exactly what has been damaged. We just want to be able to rehabilitate the roads and the assets that require it, and surely quicker than more than 2 years is what our communities expect, and surely what we expect as well. Do any other councillors wish to speak to the motion? Councillor Horn, you've already spoken as a seconder. Can I say to you, you'll get another opportunity with a similar contract at the next item. Go to Councillor Gallagher to sum up. No? If not, I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Now we have 13.2, which is contract number 23/652406 for the October 2022 flood rehabilitation works Eastern area. So a mirror of the previous contract. The item is for decision. The recommendation is that Council 1, conditional on the approval of funding from the Department of Justice and Community Safety for these works, awards contract number 23/652406 for flood rehabilitation works in the east of the Shire to Marchese Excavation and Bin Hire for the lump sum of $594,129 excluding GST. 2, authorises the CEO to sign the contract documents and affix the Council's common seal. And 3, authorises the CEO, the financial delegation, to approve contract variations up to a total of 10% of the signed contract value. Can I have somebody to move that motion? Moved Councillor Gold, seconded Councillor Croucher. Councillor Gold.
Thank you. I think, as you say, a mirror image. A community certainly wants this work done. We know the damage that's been caused. Again, very pleased to know we're in a position to have a contractor lined up. I hope the funding processes, as described by Director is streamlined more than you've seen to this point. And again, I think it's great that we can have two contractors working in different ends of the Shire, both for our efficiencies and I hope for theirs. This work, once given the green light, does go ahead quite quickly.
Thank you, Councillor Gold. Councillor Crouch, would you like to speak?
I thought that both recommendations were fairly straightforward, and I'd like to endorse the 3 points of the recommendation. Furthermore, accept the tender for flood rehabilitation works in the eastern side of the Shire with the lump sum mentioned in the recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Crouch. Would anybody else like to speak to the motion? Councillor Hall, did you want to take the opportunity to speak to it?
No, I had intended just to add in the context of the last item by saying that 163 properties were impacted by the floods.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. Would anybody else like to speak to the motion? If not, I'll go back to Councillor Gold. Would you like to sum up? I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item 13.3 is contract 2223050001, design and construction of clubhouse for the Yakandana Golf Club. The item is for decision. The recommendation is that Council 1 awards contract number 2223050001 for the design and construction of clubhouse for the Yakandana Golf Club, 2 modular spaces for the lump sum of $480,000 including GST. 2, authorises the CEO to sign and seal the contract documents, and 3, authorises the CEO a financial delegation to approve contract variations up to a total of 10% of the signed contract value. Can I have somebody to move that motion? Moved, Councillor Crouch, second, Councillor Gaffney. Councillor Crouch.
Yes, the Yakandana Golf Club has been on the lookout for a new clubhouse for a number of years. The current building does not truly support the golfing community of Yakandana and its surrounding areas, and in fact is more home for right hands. With this in mind, it is pleasing that the club can now look forward to the construction of a new modular clubhouse, taking in mind to retain the existing deck structure out the front. This is a very hard-working club who deserve better facilities for not only their members, but the many outside groups who also use this building for other activities.
Thank you, Councillor Crouch. Councillor Gaffney, would you like to speak a second?
They say the good things come to those who wait. Well, this golf club has been waiting nearly 60 years. As Councillor Crouch has said, the current clubhouse is full of whiteheads. It just needs to be bulldozed. It's good that the Victorian government put in $223,000, Indigo Shire put in $235,000, and the golf club put in $50,000. Read the tender documents, they're very thorough. I'd like to congratulate the sport rep officer at Indigo Shire and also infrastructure who have the project manager. Project had to be changed, not dramatically, but from time to time to try and fit in with the tender, and they did very well to get it for that price, which is $508,000. And it's also good to see that there's a variation available to the CEO if it's necessary. We know that the price of building material is skyrocketing and it's hard to get labour, so congratulations to all those concerned.
Thank you, Councillor Gaffney. Would any other council like to speak to the motion? I'll go back to you, Councillor Crouch. Would you like to sum up?
No, I think I've summed up. Okay.
I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item 13.4 is transfer of land 11A Scott Street, London. The item is for decision. The recommendation is that Council 1 notes that the approved planning permit PV 210135 for the subdivision at 11A Scott Street, Rutherglen 30 lot subdivision proposes an area of 3,774 square metres be created as public open space, and that this area exceeds the required area under Section 171 of the Planning and Environment Act 1987 by 2,001 square metres. 2, notes that one of the parcels of land included in the subdivision, Lot 1 TP 449778, is a council-owned reserve, and a part of this parcel is required to be transferred from council ownership to the developer to enable the subdivision to be certified and titles created. 3, agrees to the intended transfer of 280.8 square metres of land valued at $16,500 from Lot 1 TP 449778 at 11A Scott Street, Rutherglen, to the developer of the surrounding land at no cost. 4, agrees to the intended acquisition of an additional 2,001 square metres from the developer over and above the required 5% public open space contribution at no cost to support the extension of the adjacent Barclay Park Sporting Reserve. 5, notes a public notice will be published for a period of at least 28 days prior to the proposed transfer, advising of the council's intention to both A, transfer land from council to the developer, and B, acquire land from the developer. 6, receive submissions from the public for a minimum period of 14 days following the public notice being published in accordance with Council's Community Engagement Policy 2021. And 7, notes that a further report will be provided to Council following the public notice period unless no objections are received, in which event Council officers will proceed with the formal process required for the transfer and acquisition of land. Could I ask somebody to move that motion? Councillor Horn. And Councillor Horn, I think we're going to move that motion as item 6 now, stating 28 days to stay consistent, make it a consistent process. Are you happy to move the motion the 28 days for both? Yes. Yes. Okay. So, Councillor Horn, you've moved that motion. Do I have a second of that motion? Councillor Cole, would you like to second that motion? So just to confirm for each of the councillors, the only change from the recommendation as it's listed in the agenda is that item 6 now reads 28 days, not 14. So that motion has been moved and seconded. Councillor Horn, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes. This is basically a little bit of housekeeping where a very small tract of land is having to be, the ownership of that has to be sorted out. And we're hoping that people, if they do need to obtain some submission, will do it very promptly within a 14-day period so that this can come back quickly to.
Councillor Horn, can I just confirm with you that's the point I was raising, just to be sure that you're of the understanding that it will be 28 days for submissions. So that's the point, as I said, right, item 6 is to make that change, which I suggested to you, to 28 days.
Yes. Yeah, right. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Horn. Councillor Gold, would you like to speak a second?
Yeah, thank you. I think again it's another subdivision that provides fantastic opportunity for the community to progress with subdivision for housing and close to the Rutherglen Township, exactly what we want. And I think the housekeeping term by Councillor Horn's excellent. It's shaving off a piece of land that would allow a drainage to go under the new road rather than its current location, and exchanging the 280 square metres of what is effectively going to be a drain for over 2,000 square metres of what will become public space next to an existing reserve to both improve the amenity for the community and the value of that reserve as well. I personally think it's an excellent exchange and would like to thank Council for the negotiations of that option and the developer for their interest in having a really good outcome for the community on land that possibly is not useful for them for housing development, but is extremely important for community value.
Thank you, Councillor Gold. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? Councillor Gaffney?
I think it's really important to note that this is no cost to council, and we get an extension of the adjacent Barclay Park Reserve. So we're getting 2,000 square metres from the developer. It's very good for our community.
Thank you, Councillor Gaffney. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? I think think it is just important to say this is exactly what is required for a transfer of land, nothing more, nothing less. This is the process that is prescribed to us, and it does seem an interesting, almost a swap, but a really tiny sliver of land that we need to transfer, and again, a much larger piece of land with that the developer intends to transfer over for community use. So this is the really important process, albeit arduous process, that needs to happen to facilitate that. I'll go back to you, Councillor Horn. Would you like to sum up? No? If not, I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item 7 is executive management, and item 14.1 is the governance rules review. The item is for decision. The recommendation is that Council 1 notes that no submissions were received during the 21-day exhibition period from the 26th of June to the 10th of July 2024. 2, adopts the governance rules for 2024, including the election period policy. And 3, notes that the updated version will take effect from the 31st of July 2024. That's somebody to move that. Moved Councillor Gold, seconded Councillor Horn. Councillor Gold.
Thank you. I think not only are we required to review our governance rules and reflect on any changes to legislation that we have to enact, but also it gives us an opportunity to think about our best practice and what we're doing and what we need to do, any changes we may make. I think there's a good amount of effort put into the original document. It's a value that it goes out to community, that there were no responses. Either it doesn't interest people greatly, because I'm sure governance rules aren't really a stimulus for a lot of people, but also the opportunity is there for those that may want to raise a concern or even a contribution or a congratulations. So I think it's just a really great piece of work that we can move on now and ensure we continue to reflect best practice.
Thank you, Councillor Gold. Councillor Hall, would you like to speak as seconder? Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? Councillor Gaffney?
I think it's important that if over time council disagrees with some part of the governance rules, a councillor can always put in a notice of motion to change those, but to test the support from the other councillors. So, albeit that we're locking this in, it can always be changed if necessary.
Thank you, Councillor Gaffney. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? I'll just say, having been involved in the Local Government Mayor's Advisory Panel last year, governance was certainly a really important focus of that panel, and it's certainly a lot of the discussion with mayors in the region and right across the sector is the importance of having really good governance in place to assure the community that you have the right processes and the real rigour in those processes. And so that's, I think, what we've got here tonight. And as Councillor Gaffney said, they're always looking for continuous improvement, reflecting on what the sector is showing to us as current best practice, and that's what we currently constantly having reflected back to us in each update. Go back to you, Councillor Gold, if you'd like to sum up. I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item 14.2 is advisory committee minutes. The item is for decision. The recommendation is that Council receives the attached unconfirmed meeting minutes for the following advisory committees. 1, the Indigo Environment Advisory Committee. 2, the Indigo Advisory Committee. 3, the Indigo Community Access Committee. I have somebody to move that. Moved Councillor Croucher, seconded Councillor Gaffney. Councillor Croucher, would you like to speak to the motion?
We're just accepting.
Councillor Gaffney, would you like to speak to the motion?
Just noted, thank you.
Would anybody else like to speak to the motion? I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item 14.3 is the informal meetings of councillors' records. The items for decision, the recommendation is that council accepts the attached informal meetings of councillors' records. Can I ask you to move that, Councillor Gaffney, and secondly, Councillor Horn, do you wish to speak to it?
Accepted, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Horn, do you wish to speak to it? No, I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item 14.4 is amendments to council meeting schedule 2024 items for decision. The recommendation is that Council 1 moves the 17th of September 2024 scheduled council meeting to the 16th of September 2024, one day earlier, and 2 holds an additional council meeting at 6:30 p.m. on the 22nd of October 2024 at the council chambers in Beechworth for the purpose of considering the annual report for 2023-24. I have somebody to move that. Moved Councillor Gaffney, seconded Councillor Horn. Councillor Gaffney.
This council moves into caretaker mode on the 17th of September. So the next scheduled council meeting will be on the 16th, and I'm sure there'll be a lot of business to get through on that date. And the additional council meeting in October, which is only several days before the election, is the consideration of the annual report.
Thank you, Councillor Gaffney. Councillor Horn, would you like to speak as seconder? Would any of the council like to speak? I'd just like to say that councillors were provided a number of options of how we could move our council meetings in the lead up to the caretaker period. By moving this meeting, the September meeting to the 16th of September means that as much business of council can be considered right up until the caretaker period. Once we go into caretaker, there are only certain items that could be considered, one of them being the annual report. So the change, bringing it one day earlier rather than just forego a September meeting, is to really make sure that as much council business can be considered right up until the caretaker period. Go back to you, Councillor Gaffney, would you like to sum up? I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item 14.5 is the joint meeting of Alpine Indigo and Town Councils. The item is for decision. The recommendation is that one council can participate in a joint meeting with Alpine and Town Shire Councils at 11 a.m. on the 13th of August 2024 in Beechworth, in accordance with the provisions of Section 62 of the Local Government Act 2020. 2, that the Mayor, the Deputy Mayor and councillors to be nominated represent council at the joint meeting, and that councillors be appointed as a councillor be appointed as a substitute to represent council in the event of any of the first 3 named councillors are unable to attend. 3, the governance rules of the host council and Shire Council be adopted for the purpose of conducting the joint meeting. And 4, the host council, Mayor, Council Sophie Price and Shire Council chair the joint meeting. And 5, any costs incurred in relation to holding the joint meeting be shared equally by the 3 councils. Before I ask somebody to move that, can I ask who the Indigo Shire councillors that will represent us will be? And I note that the Deputy Mayor, you are unavailable on that day, so we'll change the wording of the recommendation to include the names of 2 councillors as our representatives, as well as a substitute. So, Councillor Gold, you have noted some interest in participating in that meeting, so you'd like to be one of the councillors listed. And CEO, can I confirm that another councillor who is an apology for tonight's meeting has also expressed interest?
Yes, that's right. Mayor Price, Councillor Shepherd has indicated she'd like to be involved as a representative of Indigo Shire.
Okay. If there are any other councillors who wish to be interested, otherwise we'll take those 2 as the others that represent. We also need to nominate a substitute if one of the 2, if any of those 3 aren't able to attend. Either Councillor Horn, you'd happy to be the substitute. Councillor Gold, I might ask you to move that motion then, given that you're one of the councillors that would represent Indigo. So you happy to move the motion containing that Councillor Gold and Councillor Shepherd are our representatives at this joint meeting with Councillor Horn as the substitute? Okay, so that's moved by Councillor Gold, seconded by Councillor Horn. Councillor Gold, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you. I think the purpose of having meetings between Alpine Shire, Indigo Shire, Tower Shire in this instance is a really valuable opportunity for each of us to explore shared interests or concerns that we might have, and I think be able to leverage our shared influence, particularly with state or federal government, where there are concerns that all of our shires and communities and councils are interested in resolving. I think in this instance, where we've got a shared concern around the proposal for the Albury-Wodonga Health development, we want to be clear that we can advocate for our communities in those conversations. So I think this is a really good opportunity to continue the conversation between the shires, understand our interests, and be able to have a shared voice as we move forward.
Thank you, Councillor Gold. Councillor Hall, would you like to speak a second?
Yes, I think this is a wonderful opportunity. We already work together in lots of ways, and this just reinforces the fact that coming from a similar point of view has value.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? Councillor Croucher.
I know you've got a certain agenda topic to talk about on that particular day, but I always think it's fantastic for us as council laws to meet with other council laws and other shires, particularly of similar sizes and so forth. And I know we've already had one meeting with the three councils. Not only did we discuss certain things, but it was really great to meet up with other council laws.
Thank you, Councillor Croucher. I'd just like to say I think it's a really interesting mechanism that we can use from the Local Government Act to convene such a meeting between three councils. As Councillor Croucher alluded to, we have really good collaboration with Alpine and Tower, between our councillors, between our mayors, between our CEOs and our staff. There are lots of similarities between our shires, and certainly this is a big one. This is a really big conversation that is happening right now about the Albury-Wodonga Health Hospital development, largely being led by Wodonga and Albury, but certainly with the inclusion of each of the three councils that we're talking about. I think it's really important that we take up this opportunity to convene this meeting and to formalise our collective efforts in this space and in this discussion. I note that a similar item, or exactly the same item, will be going to both the Alpine and Tower council meetings to confirm that they will attend as well. And I really encourage our community to have a look at when this meeting will be held, and we'll begin to publish the details on that once it's been confirmed that each of the three councils will participate. I will now go back to the moving Councillor Gold. Would you like to sum up? I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item 14.6 is contracts awarded under Chief Executive Officer delegation for June 2024. The item is for information, and there were no contracts awarded by the CEO under delegation between the values of $250,000 and $500,000 for the month of June 2024. Item 15 is notices of motion, and there are no reports. Item 16 is councillors' reports. Would any councillor like to make a report on their activities over the last month to the council meeting? No. Item 16.1 is the Mayor's Diary for June 2024, and that is there for information. Item 17 is the decisions register, which is there for information. And item 18 is general business. Is there any general business for the council meeting that any council would like to raise? Councillor Gutton.
I've been informed that the live stream dropped out at 5 to 7. I don't know whether it came back, and just rest assured that it wasn't any decision of the council. And we'll find out whether that can be retrieved.
Let's ask that question now to Director of Planning and Corporate Services, Greg Hinton. As you alluded to earlier, we were having issues with the internet. Can you tell us about if the live stream has dropped out and whether people can view the meeting perhaps after the fact, or where the live stream is up to?
Yeah, so the live stream, or the whole internet dropped out of the building, so we lost everything there for a bit. We do have a backup, and so what we need to do tomorrow is just piece together the backup, and we'll get that out on the internet. Unfortunately, with the live stream, it's a one-shot process, so even when the internet came back up, we weren't able to get back onto the live stream, but it's all been recorded, and we'll put everything we've got up on the internet tomorrow.
Thank you, Director.
I'm sure it was deliberate.
Any other general business for the council meeting? No? If not, we've got item 19 is a confidential item. So Section 66 of the Local Government Act 2020 states the council or delegated committee must keep the meeting open to the public unless the council or delegated committee considers it necessary to close the meeting to the public because a circumstance specified in subsection 2 applies. The circumstances are that the meeting is to consider confidential information as defined in Section 3 of the Local Government Act, or for security reasons, or it is necessary to do so to enable the meeting to proceed in an orderly manner. So I'm looking for a recommendation that the council meeting be closed to the public in accordance with Section 66 of the Local Government Act. Moved by Councillor Gaffney, seconded by Councillor Horn. I'll group the vote. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. We'll now move into confidential session, and we'll only be returning out of confidential session to close the meeting.
Good to see you, Debbie. Did you learn something this year more? Did you learn much?
Declare the meeting closed, and note that the next scheduled meetings of council, there's the joint meeting that we've approved tonight, which is the meeting of Alpine, Indigo and Towel on the 13th of August at 11 a.m. But it's the next scheduled council meeting for Indigo Shire Council is Tuesday, the 27th of August 2024 at 6:30 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you.